In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
From the Vikings of Norway to my home down south to Washington, D.C., I've been around. I've seen it all, and I've come out on top. You better beware, for all you know, the bell tolls for you. Enter the bell tower or watch your step.
There, okay, and I'm on mute. I'm glad because I was just laughing like crazy. We're having some kind of night on the boards tonight already. I have Dr. Arrington with me tonight. Hello, it's Lou the Bell. Dr. Arrington calls me the winch. Let's start by explaining that because we haven't done it enough. Why do you call me the winch, Dr. Arrington? Good evening.
Well, good evening, Lou, and I'll get to that after I come to the realization that you have me on your show for a couple reasons. One, to deflect your Twitter trolls off of you and put the heat onto me. I experience it all the time. And tonight, Hammy and JD and Stacy and Slickery Trigger weren't available, so you brought me on. But the reason I'm glad to be here. The reason that I call you the winch is because you don't take crap from anybody.
I try.
Yeah. Well, you've been taking crap, but you don't allow it to get to you, and you fight back.
Well,
you're one of the sheepdogs.
Our very last little piece that we're going to do tonight is going to be a little bit about that. But, I'm a pretty nice person. You know that. People see me as a nice person. But, everybody has their line that they cross. And sometimes it doesn't matter how nice you are. You don't get nice back. So, sometimes you have to be a winch.
Didn't you on the last Office Hours, Dr. Ray called me a sexist?
No.
Pig?
See,
No, you don't.
You always turn things around on me because the exact opposite of what I said, and this is this is forever recorded in history. I said you are not a sexist. I actually stopped the show to point out that the comment that you made was not sexist because you are not a sexist because I know you that well.
All right. Well,
Happy now?
I agree with you, but I'm excited. People don't know me; they think you're lying. But I'm excited to talk about the issues that you sent me on the text and get people to be also excited about them because we need to save this country, Lou.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's so easy to just ignore, what's going on in the world and not worry about national security, but it's such a bad idea. And it affects every single thing that we do. And if we haven't been through enough famines and oil crises and things like that in our lifetime to know that our national security affects every single thing that we do, from the price of gas, which affects the price of everything in this country, pretty much, to our overall power. And, there are so many different ways to look at it, and we're going to look at it a lot of different ways tonight. And I think that's what, if I've ever done a show that was a plethora of national security, I believe that this one will be it. Because that's
one of your pet peeves, national security. And you know what? It should be every American's pet peeve, national security, because if we don't have security of the nation goes tumbling down, and then you're not going to get your welfare check. You're not going to get all these things that the government's been giving you.
Mm-hmm.
So national security should be on everybody's mind, and it's not. That's a problem.
I was at a very impressionable age at a time when it was a pretty scary time. And there was actually a doomsday clock, and it was like set to 2 minutes to midnight or a minute and a half to midnight. And, you know, that's a pretty scary place to be. Nobody talks about the doomsday clock now, but do you remember when it was everything?
I do, and the problem today, we're in just as tenuous of times in national security today because of asymmetrical warfare. And we have politicians in there right now that don't have the courage, the guts to stand up and do what is necessary to defeat the current enemy or enemies that we have that are waging asymmetric warfare against us. And that is a pretty nasty situation, and we're losing American lives because of that.
And I know
cowardice.
Right, and it's a very, very, very important thing to you, because I think that, and it's funny. So let's start this show off by talking about what an existential threat actually is, because that is a term that has come back into the lexicon, and I love the way liberals will push a term out of the lexicon and wait until they can change the meaning of it completely, and then they bring it back. So explain to us from old school, you know, tactical and strategic perspective what an existential threat is.
We've got several existential threats right now.
But explain what it is. Explain what it actually is. Explain what that word means, because that's what people don't understand. They don't understand what the word existential means in terms of being a threat. That means that it could basically change everything that we see, feel, hear. It is all around us. It is ever present. It is imminent.
Yeah. Well, the way I understand an existential threat is it is a threat to someone's very survival. The existential question is a sort of a probing political question that will get right down to the nature of what we are, who we are, and why we are here. And the very nature of the United States of America, all of our principles, our founding principles, our values, are facing this existential threat. There are people out there that want to basically take all that away from us.
And that's the meaning of the word. That's the meaning of an existential threat. They want to make you disappear.
Exactly.
Yes.
They want that's what
it's present.
Israel has been facing ever since its existence. They want to wipe them off the map.
Right. And
well,
it's present, and it's probably imminent.
It is. ISIS or ISIL, whatever you want to call it, I believe they do pose an existential threat to the United States of America.
Of course they do.
And even more so
they'd
because
certainly like
we have
to, anyway.
people that are... Say again?
I said they'd certainly like to. They're doing everything that they can to. I think that's existential enough. Right?
And why do you think they're doing that?
Well, they want us to disappear. They well, you explain why they're doing that.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about that on Sunday's show, okay? And you got a lot of people out there that want to be Muslim apologists, want to think the best of them, or just one of them. I told you that the Islamo-communist in the White House, the knucklehead, is one of them, and that's why we're having such a problem. I don't think we can be beaten by an outside threat. But if you combine an outside threat with an internal treason, you're in deep trouble. And that's where we are right now. We not only have Barack Obama in the White House doing his damnedest to destroy this country, fomenting his revolution, whether it be a communist revolution or a Muslim revolution, we've got Muslim Brotherhood people in high-level positions in every federal bureaucracy in this country. Do you know that, Lou?
I figured.
Yeah,
I mean,
and who put him there? Obama put him there.
Well, and I actually heard the discussion on Fox News today about the yes men. I know that you talk about the yes men. He's replaced so much of the senior leadership, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That, I mean, I hear it a lot. I hear it from the experts. I read it from the experts. You know, the analysts know very well. You can see just the spokespeople are ridiculous. I mean, I won't even get into that. That's media analysis. However, but it's a bunch of yes men, right?
Well, this existential, exactly, and this existential threat is basically a threat to the continued existence of the United States, our government as it is right now, and our people.
And everyone that works against it. Everyone that works against it, inside or outside the country. So Russia is probably an existential threat because they'd love to see us disappear. They want what we have. I think they still, to this day, would like to get rid of us. So, yeah, the 80s, we probably do need some of that foreign policy back. ISIL, ISIS, Daesh definitely are. They want us to disappear. They want to get rid of us. And then the people inside the country. So this is what you're saying. There are people inside America that really would like to see the America that we know, love, and have come to adore disappear as we know it.
Right. They want to deprive the United States of our sovereignty under the Constitution and threaten our territorial integrity and our safety within the U.S. borders. And just basically wipe us off the map. What we are today, this democratic republic, constitutional republic based on democratic principles. The Russians want to do it. Putin wants to do it because he is a communist. That's what communist theorists want to do. We're going to talk about that in the coming weeks on office hours.
Right.
The Muslims want to do it because that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and it has to be. Yeah, it has to be realistic and present at some point to really be an existential threat. So there has to be some. You can't just say, "Well, North Korea is going to bring us down." Well, no, they're probably not. China is not an existential threat for a lot of reasons, but one, they probably couldn't do much to us. Well, China maybe they're getting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I mean, it has to be really a present threat. So, without spending too much time on that, I think we got the idea. I think we got the idea of what's going on there, and I just kind of wanted to lay that groundwork because quite a few things happened in the past week. First of all, we had Putin saying that he wanted to drop nuclear bombs in Syria, and I think that we were coming out the weekend when we got that news. Or going into the weekend when we got that news. It was definitely after last week's show. So first of all, he's going to drop some nuclear bombs in the Middle East. And then today, he kind of gave an outstretched arm to the president and, said he wanted to work with America to fight ISIS, which is not really what's been going on in the Middle East up until this point. So I'm kind of worried about Putin's mental health at this point. I think he might have a little bit multiple personality disorder. What are you thinking?
You can't trust the Russian leadership ever, ever, ever. They will lie to us as a stalling tactic so they can continue to build whatever weapons platform they're building. The current thing, I think they just had a big defense meeting in Sochi where Putin said that he was going to develop nuclear weapons that would be able to penetrate any missile defense shield that the United States is building. We are building one right now that should be ready to go by 2020. And he views that not as a defensive mechanism, but as the means to a first strike capability.
Because hegemony has always been more important to them than it has for, maybe not always, but in the last at least 20 years, it's been a lot more important to them than it has been to us, because we've had it, they hadn't, they want it back.
Right, and if we were to develop defenses that could not be penetrated by his retaliatory nuclear missiles, whether they're submarine-launched missiles, bomber missiles, their nuclear triad that Mr. Trump didn't know about, or their ICBMs, that would mean that we could launch preeminently a first strike against Russia if we so chose to do that. They would then retaliate, and they wouldn't have mutual assured destruction.
I know.
What they would have is, so that's what he views it as.
And just to say, that's funny that you mentioned the triad, because you, me, JD, Stacy, Rick, and we all agreed that was pretty stupid that he didn't know what that was. And going into its national security debate, which is one of our topics, he certainly should have known how to answer that question. But I will put forth that 98% of the American people have no clue about the triad.
They don't.
Right.
They don't.
Okay. Not just me then.
I only knew of it because my dad was a nuclear submarine officer, and I was a nuclear delivery pilot, qualified when I was, flying the A-7, so I was part of the triad. But so if we were to build that impenetrable defense missile shield, he would view that as not a defensive weapon, but an offensive weapon, because it would, repel his weapons, and we could launch first strike and destroy Moscow or Stalingrad or whatever.
Right.
And he wouldn't be able to give us mutually assured destruction. That's what prevented us from using nuclear weapons back then. It was mutual assured destruction.
Yeah.
And that's what right now we don't have that deterrent going with the current war against Islam, because if they die, they don't care. They think if they die in their alleged holy jihad,
and that was Vietnam.
They go straight to heaven.
And
what do they call it?
And that was the problem in Vietnam. They didn't care if they lost soldiers, and the soldiers didn't really care that much about dying. And that is that's the worst kind of enemy to have, quite frankly. And the other one is a religious zealot. And in this enemy, we have both.
You know how I feel about Islam, and you calling it a religion, correct?
Well, I call them zealots. I call them religious zealots.
Okay.
And that's not, you believe whether it's religious or it's ideological, they're zealots. And you can apply that to culture after culture after culture. So let's not get caught up in the semantics of it, Doc.
You can't use those big words on me like you come from Cornell, because I have to look them up.
Thanks.
But it doesn't matter.
But you have your PhD.
I'll give you a quarter for that word zealot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's part of the asymmetrical warfare. You have them going against us. They can't match us in military hardware or prowess or anything. But if we allow them to hit us here, hit us there with impunity, basically, which is happening right now, that can be very effective. Asymmetrical warfare, guerrilla warfare, whatever term you want to call it. That's what's happening right now. And we're going to discuss that Monday on Office Hours, you and I on the Office Hours show.
It's Sunday at noon, and stop plugging it. We're going to plug it before we get out of here, and that's your last one you get until we leave, okay? But it's noon on Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so but you're talking about asymmetrical warfare and terrorism, and you mentioned the kind of this, the hit, the barrage. The hit after hit after hit. The reason that they plan multiple attacks, it's not to attack, and we started off the show this way. It's not to kill people. It's to scare people. We talked about
that's what terrorism does, basically. Correct.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
Right.
That it's to cause terror. That's why it's called terrorism. It is to incite fear in the people. So the hope is that somewhere in the process, and they don't care how far they have to take it, but the hope is that we're done. Whatever you want, you can have it. Here's your caliphate. Now leave us alone, which doesn't happen, by the way. FYI, if you're thinking that if we give them their caliphate, they'll leave us alone, please stop thinking that, because it's not going to happen. They're not going to leave us alone when they have their caliphate, are they, Doc?
That's exactly right. And one of my favorite commentators on Fox, I hope he's still there, is Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, who, basically the other day used an adjective for our Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Obama, which was highly appropriate in my humble opinion. But he said his opinion for beating ISIS, ISIL, Islam, Al-Qaeda, whoever these guys are, these zealots, is you kill every one of them, and then you kill their goat. And that's
kill
what
them all
basically
and then
we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, kill their goat.
So let's talk about that for a second, because people are constantly asking me, what's the difference between ISIS and ISIL? Or what is the difference between Al-Qaeda and ISIS? And there was a point, I think it was probably 3 weeks to a month ago, where Al-Qaeda made a statement denouncing ISIS, which was it was just kind of bizarre, and it lasted for a short amount of time. And I do believe that there was a process, maybe about 48 hours. There was a point where they said, "Oh, that was just a rogue agent. No, we really like ISIS." This is like trying to figure out the different pieces of the network of radical Islam is like trying to figure out, dissect, I don't know, Anonymous, The Matrix, you name it. It is loose, it's tight, it's networked, it's not. It's all over the world at this point, all over the world. And by the way, there's a point where we could have stopped that, or at least mitigated it, but instead we encouraged and empowered it. But it is everywhere.
When I was an undergraduate at UCLA, Dr. Brody taught me this about the Middle Eastern people and Islam and their beef with the rest of the world. He said over there, the mantra is me and my brother against each other, but me and my brother against everybody else. Now, you've got Sunnis and Shias. You got the Kurds, you got all these different sects of Islam that are fighting each other until there's a chance for them to fight all the infidels. So, Al-Qaeda sprung out first, and they had the most...
Oh, well, it would seem that I lost my guess for a moment, but you know what? I'll get him back. But I'm sure he was going to give us a great explanation. We'll let him pick it up when we come out of the break. It was about time for us to go into a break anyway. So we're going to do that, and we'll be right back.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberconservative conservatism.
Where no one is safe, no one is spared. Not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com. The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
We're back. Thanks for sticking with us. And only on For Whom the Bell Tolls will you hear War, followed up by Saturday Night Special, right? Well, Slick pointed out that that's an anti-gun song. War. No, I'm sorry. I think it was Dexter. That is an anti-gun song. Well, so what? We follow it up with Saturday Night Special. So, very pro-gun song there.
We can interpret it any way we want to.
It's a good song. That's good rock and roll right there. I'm sorry. I love it. It'll pick you up. So, pick up where you left off if you can, Doc. Don't back up too far.
Well, these people fight each other and then they line up with each other to fight us, the infidels. And that's the way it's been there forever. So Al-Qaeda, when they carried out that heinous attack on World Trade Center, the Pentagon, all that stuff, using the airliners, well, they were the number one jihadis in the world at the time. Now they're not, since we took care of Osama bin Laden and dumped him in the ocean.
Yeah.
The ISIS or ISIL people, I still call them ISIS, are taking the mantle as the number one jihadis in the world. And that kind of probably makes some of these other ones jealous. But they will line up with each other.
Oh, it will. Yeah, it will make them jealous, and they will get more and more jealous, and there will be more divisions. And I laughed out loud when I heard that statement because I knew it was coming because it's always happened. And you know that I studied this in school, so I saw it coming. Some of us have to learn more about it than others do, and that's nothing to say except they made me. Before they would give me my degree, they made me learn that. So you pointed out something really important, and I think it's the most important thing, because we're often made to feel sorry for this, that, or the other group, because the most evil group of the moment, let's say it's Shiite, doesn't like that group. So they're okay though because so and so hates them. Saddam doesn't like them, or the mullahs don't like him, so they're really okay. Well, that's not necessarily true because of exactly what you just said. They hate each other momentarily. They hate us forever.
They hate us more. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, intensely.
And, it's ironic. I always will tell people we are at war. Whether or not Mr. Obama wants to admit that, or Lindsey Graham, who that knucklehead the other day on the undercard, that's why he's on the undercard, looked into the camera and said to the Muslims, "You're not the enemy. Au contraire, sir. Go back to whatever rock you crawled out from underneath in South Carolina. They are the enemy. I guarantee you." And I always say, we are at war. Damn the political correctness. Full speed ahead.
People don't stop to think. Okay, so they're being politically correct. They're trying to be polite. Fine. You don't, and I think you and I both know they're doing it for votes, or they think they are. But people don't stop and think, well, okay, but that's a slap in the face to every German, every Japanese, every Korean, that we took a defensive posture toward because we were at war. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The way that we treated in the 20th century, and we lambast ourselves for the way that we treated people in the 20th century, and I don't necessarily exactly agree with everything that we did. I'll put that out there. But
Nor do I.
Right. We lambast ourselves for it when we shouldn't, because it was far more advanced and far more kind than the way people were treated prior to the 20th century. This is coming from a girl who's, all of my family lived through the Civil War on both sides, and it wasn't pretty. They say war is hell for a reason. Should I let the naval aviator tell us about that?
Well, yeah, first I want to say this about Lindsey Graham. He's going to get exactly 2 votes, his own and his mother's. Oh, wait, his mother's a Democrat. He's going to get 1 vote. That's it. I wish he'd go away. Him and McCain, War is hell. Every warrior, I am a warrior, as is Slick and Hammy. We don't want to go to war, but we are willing to go to war and into harm's way because that's the type of men we are. And I say men, I mean human, men and women. That's the type of people we are. We are the sheepdogs. That was the first subject of our show. And we will go to war to protect our family, our community, our nation, and ourselves willingly. We don't want to. A good warrior would rather have peace and honor through strength. But if called upon, we will throw our body into harm's way to protect what we cherish. And we cherish our families. We cherish our communities, the Constitution of the United States of America. I love the United States. People don't understand, Lou. This is the greatest country that has ever existed in the history of mankind.
Well, I think that so many more people understand that than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And they want to understand the kind of things that we're talking about. The people that understand what you just said even there's a large percentage of them that don't understand the deeper issues that lead to it, right? So therefore the problem becomes that they will believe what they hear. Donald Trump says, I'll build a wall. Not only will I build it, I'll make the Mexicans pay for it. Oh, that sounds great. That's going to work. Well, it's not, because you need to think a little bit deeper. So, that's why we're here. So we talked about, what it is and why it is and how they feel about us. So why does the FBI seem to not give a crap about things that are right in front of us that everybody knows about and should be at least considered a serious threat, if not an imminent threat?
Because they're afraid for their jobs. Obama and his minions have threatened them. The only one they can't really touch at the FBI is the current director. His name is James Comey. He's got a 10-year contract, so he's sort of above the political fray, if you will. And you notice that James Comey recently has been coming out and making derogatory statements, inflammatory statements, provocative statements in opposition to Mr. Obama and the rest of his presidential administration. I think he is telling the truth, and yet he doesn't have to endure the inevitable consequence of losing his job. The rest of those people that are they're not bureaucrats, they're career professional law enforcement men. And I knew a lot of them when I worked, as an agent for U.S. Customs and Homeland Security. They live in fear of their job every single day because somebody, if they don't like, they will tell you to shut down that investigation. There's nothing to see here. Move on. And they know different. And if they keep on doing the investigation, they lose their job. They'll come up with some trumped up charge, and bring them to court, whatever, and they'll get rid of them. So they're afraid, Lou. They're afraid.
And that's sad because, even if they're good people, they have families to feed. They got to keep their job. So, and that is the ultimate slap in the face to an American. For your own political reasons and to the people that protect our country.
That's the reason we need term limits. But I always talk about with you, both on the air and offline, about the Pareto principle which is a psychological principle, but you can segue it into politics. The Pareto principle is alive and well in the federal government. Listen to me, people, 80% of the people working right now in the federal government are incompetent to do the job that they are hired to do. But that's the beast of the bureaucracy. The beauty is all it takes is about 20% competency in any group to be effective. And you do have 20% in the federal government that are highly competent, outstanding American individuals that know how to do their job extremely well and are patriots. And a lot of those are getting stifled because they have to put food on the table for their family. So they just shut up and go with the flow until the next guy moves into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and maybe the atmosphere, the dominant culture there will be different because it emanates down from the White House.
When the culture in the administration changes, and it really takes a year for it to start to trickle down, right?
It does, and I'm getting tired of hearing this statement come mostly from Obama. That's not who we are as Americans. Well, you know what, people? That better be who we become as Americans pretty quickly, or we will cease to be America. And he usually says that about people that are, talking about his immigration plans, his unfettered immigration, how they're bringing in these orphans and widows. That's nothing to be further from the truth. He's lying to you, again, using tequila tactics and the pathological liar that he is. He's lying to you, Lou, and everybody else out there in the United States of America. The problem is there are people, about half the country, that are desperate to believe every word that comes from his mouth or that Wicked Witch of the West, Mrs. Clinton's mouth. They're desperate to believe it. And both of them know that they're lying to you, but they also know they can get away with it.
Yes, and that is the scariest thing, is that they can. Because look at them. They're getting away with it. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, we got a whole new email scandal. And guess who it is? It's Ash Carter.
Ashton Carter. Do you know about Ashton Carter? I do.
Please tell us. That's why you're
he
here.
is a lifelong mega liberal that's been in the bureaucracy there. I think he first went to Yale, got his degree there. He's a physicist, and he also was interested in international relations. So he got his undergraduate degree at Yale, and then qualified like Mr. Clinton did to be a Rhodes Scholar, and went to Oxford, got his PhD at Oxford in basically international global relations, worked in various fields, government related, has been in the Department of Defense for a long time in various senior executive service positions, and then finally, when that last guy that was named Chuck, I can't remember the last, he was an alcoholic, finally got rid of him. They installed him as the Secretary of Defense. He's been there like about a year and a half. Chuck Hagel. He's been there about a year and a half or so. And when that occurred, I got all my admirals and generals who I'm on their intel committees or intel networks reach out to me because they know I have a voice. A lot of my ex-squadron mates, you and I have talked about this. I got a lot of ex-admirals that are squadron mates, and we invite them onto either one of the shows, and they politely decline. They say, Teen Angel, I don't want to come on that show because I'm now working as a contractor in the defense field, and if I tell you what I know, I run the risk of losing my job. Again, they've got to feed their families. But this guy's basically been a lifelong Democrat that has been doing things that are, you and I would find abhorrent. And one of the things that he's been doing, I guess he just stopped a couple months ago, he was using personal email to conduct Department of Defense business. And his comment was, well, I should have known better. Oh, yes, sir, you did know better, but you were doing it anyway because you thought you could get away with it.
Yeah, and I would use the Bergdahl comparison, but I'm not sure. After what they did with him, it was a lot of people have known better. And a lot of people, there was a time when that was considered treason. And now it
still is treason.
Yeah, well, and it's treason, and then it was sloppy, and now it's business as usual.
Well, for it to be the type of treason that is so heinous, somebody's got to have the guts to step up and draft those papers, those indictment papers. Somebody's got to, indict and impeach, drop the articles of impeachment for Mr. Obama. And we talked about that before.
Right.
They won't do it because of the Chicago way, bribery and blackmail.
And you're plugging the show again. Stop.
I said you and I talked about it. I didn't even mention my name.
Okay. You got your plugs in already. All right. So this is ridiculous. He did it beyond when they were the scandal with Hillary had already broken. The investigation was beginning, and he continued. And he is with the Department of Defense. What kind of defense does this country have?
If we use all of the weapons in our arsenal, that just doesn't mean, offensive.
We're going to get to that at the end of the show, too.
Well, the things that we can do, there's nobody out there that can beat us. Nobody. Mm-hmm. We could beat these ISIS knuckleheads in 4 weeks or less, maybe 4 days, if we were willing to do what is required to beat them. That's go patting on their ass, and we mentioned that. But you got a guy in the White House who can barely throw a baseball 63 feet 6 inches. And a lot of people use that P word to describe him, and it's very appropriate. I'm going to resist saying that because out of, professorial discretion, but it's absolutely true. And you know what I think about him. He's one of them. He told us he was one of them. Why don't you listen to him, people? Even Satan mixes in the truth with his lies. He told you what he is. He was in Egypt. He told the people, I am one of you. Should the winds blow in an ugly direction, I will stand with the Muslims.
And we have already talked about how they feel about us. So let's keep moving because we got another couple of topics to cover.
Okay.
So
okay.
Ash Carter's actually. We have one more topic to cover, but it's a good one. So we really.
What are your thoughts about Ash Carter using the emails? Private.
I should have known better. Ha ha ha. What do you think I think about that, Doc?
It's ridiculous.
It is. It's ridiculous. I pay you. Show me a little bit more respect than that. That's how I feel about it.
I serve with impunity because I serve with Barack Hussein Obama. You can't touch me.
Right.
Ha ha ha.
And this is why I was so the other topic. This is why I was so disappointed in the debate. It was national security. I was excited to hear it, and what I heard was blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Until it got to Carly. And where is she in the polls? So I feel like nobody cares. At this point, I feel like nobody gives a crap about national security, but you and I and a few other people I know.
Well, I you know what? Everybody keeps asking me to endorse somebody, and I always tease you and Stacey and JD about Trump. Yeah, and you know offline how we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. And I like some of the things I heard the other night from all of them, and I like some of the things that Carly said. What was interesting about what Carly said was she said, you know what? There isn't a mom in the United States. And by the way, I think moms in the United States are true American heroes, most of them. She said there isn't a mom in the United States that doesn't check social media to find out what's going on with their children. And yet the federal government can't or won't check social media to find out what type of people are coming into this country. Nothing could be more ridiculous than that. Every time I think the most ridiculous thing has happened with this administration, some new bit of information is revealed and discovered.
And that's our next topic. The whereabouts of those visa holders. We have lost track of our H-1B visa holders. Well, what do you know? Carly Fiorina, by the way, said that as the Donald has been talking about building a wall, which committee in the chat room said build a wall around the Middle East and fill it with water, which I thought was hilarious. That was a slick level comment there, by the way. Those are usually, yeah. So, and it's talking about fiance visas as well. And I didn't really get the time because I found this story right before we went on the air. It was maybe 30 minutes, and I'm trying to find the number of people. I'm not sure they even know the number of people that they... here it is. 122,000.
Yes.
Including 9,500 because of the threat of terrorism.
I think it was Jason Chavis who was in that committee hearing, and he was talking about little Tootsie from immigration, and he was a deputy secretary, asked her questions that she couldn't even answer.
She didn't have the answer to a single question. And Jim George drilled her.
She's told not to answer them.
Yeah, really. And then so my understanding is that they have been going through a series of hearings and questions and inquiries from Congress to get to this number. And like every other thing that they've done with this administration, it's taken request after request after request, right. And I don't have it. And finally when they get it, it's something freaking ridiculous like this. 122,000 visas. And 9,500 of them, these are revoked. 9,500 of them were because of terrorist activities.
It's probably 3 or 4 times that. Have you ever noticed that? When it starts to trickle out, here's the number. It turns out to be that was a low ball.
Yeah, when you get down to the facts of it, that was a really small number. Yeah, you need to. I'd take a quick break here, but we were late getting started, so we've and I know we got Daniel coming up to do a makeup show, so we don't want to we don't want to cut into Daniel's time. So we have one more kind of important thing to talk about, which was a crazy thing that happened. And you agreed to talk to me about this.
This is TL.
Yes, because you came up in the conversation, right? And after you came up in the conversation, the FBI was tagged. And with your position with the DOD and being a former federal agent, and the accusation that was made really against, and I won't call it an accusation, it was a presumption on someone's part that should have never been made, but was made against our show as well as our listeners, which I think was pretty ridiculous. And I can't help but cover this, and I know I'm going to get yelled at by somebody saying I need to stay away from this topic or I'm going to get myself in trouble. But
you want to read that tweet that was the provocative one, so people know?
My provocative tweet, my incredibly provocative tweet that I tweeted was, I'm getting to it. So we've done 2 ghost sex shows. Right. And both of the groups of people that I worked with asking questions and getting answers on the executable file that was released by Ghost Sec Group, which is group number 1. Please don't get them mixed up, Doc.
I don't.
And okay, so was part 1 was on Ghost Sec and their answers to the question. Part 2 was on Ghost Sec Group and their answers to the question. And I worked with a representative of each group. And I don't know. You tell me. Do you think I presented this story fairly?
Absolutely.
Okay. I tried.
As you always do.
Thank you. I tried my best to present the story fairly. The guys from GoSec have been wonderful and never tried to stop me or influence me as far as presenting the other side of the story. However, the contractor that works with GoSec Group was... now, again, the guy that I worked with that answered the questions was super nice and gave me what I asked for. Over the last 24 hours, however, they took down the account or claimed credit for taking down the account of one of the members of Ghost Sec Group. Or, I'm sorry, one of the members of Ghost Sec, which is not Ghost Sec Group. And the contractor tweeted a pretty kind of braggy tweet about it that you see a lot, but not necessarily in the professional world. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it in the professional world. I asked the question because we had done the 2 stories. Mr. Smith, there are very few people that can do what they do. Love to understand your strategy here. # media request.
Right.
Wow, what a provocative tweet, man.
Right.
The response that I got was, other than bragging about violating federal laws and encouraging others to, which, by the way, they never encouraged me to, what do they do? # felonious.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, he didn't understand my question. I was referring to the Epoch Times article that their skills are unique and rare, and that can be found pinned to the top of @Lou Esposito. There was a response.
An account you almost never use.
Account I use for professional reasons.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. My radio account, The Winch, is my fun account. Okay. So I responded with I'm sorry. I have to find his responses because I had to screenshot them because he deleted them. Let's see. Reasonable minds can see you're now backpedaling on your defensive tone post read them. I'm not positive if he was responding. No, he's responding to me because Stacy wasn't in this thread yet. There's an account called Benghazi Stacy that also commented on the thread, so it got a little bit confusing who he was talking to. And I said to him, always fair to your group, ask # Rage and Rising. I'm sorry, @Rage and Rising, who is the member of Ghost Set Group that answered the questions for me. But message received, not interested in the feud. It's none of my business. I'm not sticking my nose in. And there was another response from him that tagged the FBI, and I'm looking for the screenshot, doggone it. And he tagged the FBI and basically told me to admit that our audience promoted or condoned felonious activity. To which I responded, and I apologize for getting your status wrong. I said my co-host is a federal agent. Answer, no. And then I corrected, sorry, a former federal agent.
Right.
And Goldwing lawbiter, still no. And I'd never got another answer from him. I don't know why. I don't know if you picked up the phone and called him because you were mentioned, but we don't need to know on the air, by the way. And but it was a bizarre, and then the tweets were deleted. And it was a really bizarre, and it was very bothersome because this is a government contractor with our national security in his hands. Now, I'm going to give you a full minute to respond and apologize to Daniel in advance.
Okay. You got to realize that some of these people that will use FBI, that's just a scare tactic. They don't have the wherewithal to do that, period. And I just told you earlier that every federal bureaucratic agency in the United States government has been infiltrated by Muslim Brotherhood people because Barack Obama himself is one of them. And so that's a problem that we have to confront. And that's why a Cruz or somebody like that, maybe a Trump one day, somebody that to me gets in there and has the guts to do something about it, will do something about it, and that's scaring these people. Because their little apple cart gets upturned, and so we, in the not too distant future, are going to be forced, I think, by the magnitude of circumstances, to develop sort of a ruthless resolve in the country. And when that fateful day finally arrives, and I think it's getting closer, we'll begin to treat those people that want to murder our citizens and destroy our nation in that callous and cold-blooded fashion that they deserve. And then once this has happened and we win, they lose, then we can go back to our sleeping giant syndrome, Lou.
Okay, so we got that done a little bit quicker than I thought. We're not in too much danger of running into Daniel. So
good.
What you're saying, what I heard you say is not necessarily to call someone else an infiltrator, but to say that we have been infiltrated and everyone other than the sheepdogs are being influenced.
Exactly. And I don't know that this guy is an infiltrator. I suspect that he is. I don't know that he is. But I'm telling you, we have been infiltrated by both cultural Marxists and Islamic terrorists, the Muslim Brotherhood and that sort of thing. They are here. They've been here for more than 7 years, the cultural Marxists.
Right.
But these Muslims have been here trickling in, now cascading in because of that knucklehead in the White House.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm sorry to go ahead and drink your drink, but he is an Islamo-communist.
That's only a drinking word on our Sunday show.
Oh, okay. Oh, we have show on Sunday? Oh, I see.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Do you want to give it another plug?
I already gave it 3 plugs. You said so. I'm not do that anymore.
Yeah, I think you gave it 4.
I'd rather give JD and Stacy a plug.
I know. I'm going to plug it before we get out of here, which is right now. So
Okey-doke.
I left my tweets up at Lou Esposito. That is my professional public affairs account that I use to communicate with media a lot. And you can follow me there. Please do. So, rarely used, but it's interesting when it is. And so please feel free to follow me there if you'd like to, but otherwise I'm at Bell_River, and I'm at Kerosene Cowboy, which is spelled the way it's supposed to be, no zeros. And when you become an anon, you can use zeros for Kerosene Cowboy. And if you ever want to go anonymous. And we'll be here on Sunday, K98 Talk, and you can also find us at WNJC 1360 Philly for office hours with Dr. Arrington. And I do that show with that PhD that was at UCLA.
Oh, Dr. A, yeah, I know him.
Dr. A, yeah, he's a pretty good guy, and I'd throw you the keys if I was JD, but I'm just going to say we're going to ring the bell and get out of here. You guys have a great week and weekend.
Right, good night, everybody.
Yep, and if I don't see you next week, which it'll probably be, I think maybe we'll do the first Ghost Sec replay in honor of what happened today. It's out there on my timeline. Take a look at it. You guys have a great night.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.